Hi, welcome to video 8.3, Geometric Sequences, and we're on page 11 of your yellow packet. So we're not actually going to use or do the calculator patterns here. We're just going to talk about them. So the first step, we're looking at multiplying things over and over again. So if we have step 2, that gives us a number of, or I'm sorry, step 1, we put in a 2. And then if we multiply it by 2, that gives us 4, 8, 16, 32. Same thing over here, we start with 64, and then we would multiply by 0.5, which gives us 32, 16, 8, and 4. So that would be what would happen if you would put it into your calculator. This one asks us to start with whatever number we want and then put times 3 in your calculator. So basically you're multiplying it by 3 every time. And then we're talking about the common ratio. So common ratio is whatever you are multiplying. Geometric sequences are when instead of adding the same thing every time, we multiply by the same thing every time. And whatever we multiply by is called our common ratio, and we label that R. So for B, our common ratio is going to be 0.5 or 1/2 because that's what we're multiplying every time. So I'm going to put in 1/2, and for C, it doesn't actually matter what we would have put in, our common ratio is still going to be 3 because that's what we're multiplying by every time. Okay, so right on the next page, page 12, I want you to try these 3. So figure out what the pattern is, predict the next 2 numbers, and then put what the common ratio is, and you can use your calculator for that. So pause it, give it a try, and come back. And here are your answers. Okay, let's try the next one where we're looking at some formulas. So we're giving a recursive formula. Recursive, again, meaning that you take the previous number and then do something with it. So this says we start with 3, and then we take that, whatever our previous number is, and multiply by 2, and that gives us our next number. So for instance, for B of 2, we take our previous number, which is 3, and then multiply it by 2, and we get 6. For B of 3, we would take our previous number, which is 6, times 2, because that's our common ratio, and get 12. And for B of 4, we would take our previous number, which is 12, times 2, our common ratio, and we would get 24. So every time we're just multiplying by 2. Okay. Now we're looking to see if we can skip some, figure out how to find predictions that are way in the future. So I could go from here and multiply by 2 and multiply by 2 and keep going, but it's more useful, at least in some circumstances, if I can skip over those. So what I'm looking at here, I know that we're starting with 3. I'm looking for an explicit formula so I can skip some. So I'm going to take 3, and I know each time I'm multiplying it by 2. So for the second one, I'm multiplying it by 2 or by 1, 2. For this, what I've really done is I've taken 3 times 2 times 2. This one, I've taken